Hey guys, Insanity is Good here, and welcome back to, what I think might be the last case of this game of Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments. This Let's Play is dedicated to my sister, MissKanjriKitty, who's been having a hard time, and she got super excited when she found out that there was a Sherlock Holmes game, so this Let's Play is dedicated to her. So yeah, we're going to start a new case, a half-moon walk.
Where are you going, Holmes? Have you been invited somewhere?
We have been invited, Watson.
We have? Where to?
To the Baker Street Irregulars' annual dinner. They sent us an invitation. It is on the table.
A dinner? How could those street urchins afford anything like that? I can't understand your interest in them, Holmes. They're dirty. They wouldn't hesitate to steal your wallet.
Watson, you should be excited. It is a secret dinner. Its location changes every year. Read the menu. Sounds mouth-watering.
All right. We, the secret police of Baker Street, invite you, Sherlock Holmes, and Dr. Watson to our annual dinner. Menu, entree, frozen rat head salad. Is this a joke?
Not at all. Pray continue.
Main course, sow's udder in Danny Nutcracker's way. Sounds disgusting, Holmes. Hedgehog goulash. Street turnips in homemade juice. And it goes on.
I can hear them on the stairs now.
Oh, we can't go there. We can't eat that.
Watson, you'll hurt the feelings of those poor children. We have to go.
Oh, Mr. Holmes.
It is fine, Mrs. Hudson.
Mr. Holmes!
Wiggins, Dr. Watson is getting ready. He will be delighted to join us. You don't look well, my young man. Is there something wrong? Don't tell me the dinner is cancelled.
Mr. Holmes, it's my brother Leighton. He's in a prison cell. They say he's killed 2 men. You have to help us, Mr. Holmes, 'cause I know he didn't do it.
Where is he now?
From what I've heard, they took him to the yard, and they gave him a good beating already. You know what they're like. They'll hang him. They won't look any further.
Holmes, we have to help him.
Well, and forget about the dinner?
Yes.
Wiggins, I'll take the case.
You're fantastic, Mr. Holmes. I'll be waiting for you at the crime scene. You'll be there, right? It's on Half Moon Street in Whitechapel.
Very well.
Oh boy, Whitechapel. Alright. Hold on. Let's take a look at the crime scene first. And we'll go and talk to him. Poor kid. I'm just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So sure back then it was easy to blame poor people for everything. Okay, there's a carriage. Oh, no. Okay, so that just goes, okay, so down. Oh, here, Half Moon Street. Okay, let's take a look here. It's kind of a... Well, this is really, really dark. Well, let me close my blinds really quick, because I can't see shit right now. The glare from the sun. There we go. I can see a little bit better. Kind of dark in here. Okay. Alright. This is another wall. Okay, a little alcove here. Alright.
Please, gentlemen, leave the scene now. Oh, Mr. Holmes, is that you?
Good evening, Constable...
Constable Marrow. I was here with Inspector Aberline during the Ripper case, Mr. Holmes, back in '88. But then this is nothing like that case. With this one, we've got the murderer, the weapon, and the statements, which speak for themselves.
Of course, Marrow. But you know that appearances can sometimes be deceiving.
Okay, who's the victim?
Who were the victims?
The two men here, both shot. The stab fellow was Brian Vercotti, a well-known ruffian. The other, Kenneth Butler, a jeweller by trade.
Okay, who are the witnesses?
You spoke of statements. You have witnesses?
Well, I was there, so I gave my own statement. And then there were two other witnesses who said they saw the killer Chapman. Mr. Turner, a gentleman who lives in that flat over there. And Polly Powell, a flower seller, who was over at the far side of the street.
What about their testimony?
So, Constable Marrow,
Your testimony.
I should be delighted to hear your testimony.
I was standing at the north side of Half Moon Street. That was the side that you came from.
But you would have been unable to observe this part of the street, where we are standing now.
Yeah, so was the
That
lady
is
with the
correct.
flowers.
But I saw the two victims slowly enter Half Moon Street, and then shortly after, the fireworks started. A few minutes after that, the fellow Chapman rushed towards me and ran into Half Moon Street.
Please continue.
I didn't pay attention, but suddenly I heard a woman's cries and police whistles on the other side of Half Moon Street. I rushed over there and I saw the two dead bodies on the ground. When I reached Whitechapel Street, I saw Leighton Chapman. He'd been caught by two police constables.
You know what? He was probably trying to take a shortcut to go to that dinner, and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Alright, so... what are the fireworks?
What were the fireworks in honor of, Constable?
Well, today's Queen Victoria's birthday, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, I appear to have lost track of the days. It is May now, of course.
Shots, how many?
Did you hear the shots?
I didn't hear any shots. The fireworks were all over the sky. They were so loud I couldn't hear anything else.
Details at Half Moon?
Constable Marrow, what else caught your attention while you were running through Half Moon Street?
I saw nothing but rats, and I took the time to light every corner with my lamp.
Okay, Mr. Turner's window.
Did you happen to look up at Mr. Turner's window when you were on Half Moon Street at that time?
Yes, I saw that the window was open, but no one was there. It was dark in the room.
Constable, your statements have been of great value to me.
Okay. Well, so I got a dead, possible mafia guy. Let's see here.
He tried to stop the bleeding with his hand. Death was not instant.
That sucks. Okay.
The bullet penetrated his stomach, a dreadful wound.
Yeah, that sucks. Taking enough down on his feet. No. Pants. No. About his other hand.
A tattoo from Westgate Prison. Vercotti must have done some time there.
Okay. What did that hand about?
Brian Vercotti suffered greatly. What a terrible way to die.
Poor bastard. Okay. Let's check out the jeweler. Okay. Oh, wow.
The bullet struck his head. This man didn't stand a chance.
Okay. And on his hand. Oh. Key.
This is an ordinary key. I wonder what kind of door it opens.
Probably his store. Okay. Anything else before I do the little intuition thingy-bobber? Nope. Okay. I mean, I saw that, but
A piece of wood that has stuck between the cobblestones. Let us take a closer look. This shard of wood is quite new.
Weird. Very weird.
Mr. Holmes, did you see my brother at Scotland Yard? Is he all right?
We're gonna take a look at these first, kid, then we'll go talk to your brother. Alright, hey lady. Polly Powell.
Mrs. Powell?
What do you want?
My name is Sherlock Holmes. I'm assisting the police with their investigation of the crime that took place this evening.
Well, I've already gave my testimony, but very well.
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
Yes. I was selling my flowers as usual, and then the fireworks began, in honour of Queen Victoria. I enjoyed those. But then, all of a sudden, a young lad ran out of Half Moon Street and stopped just by me. He had a gun in his hand. He was like a ghost, and all covered in blood. It was dark, but I could see him, because of the flashes from the fireworks.
And then?
I screamed as loud as I could. I knew that a policeman should be on duty in the vicinity. He had no time to escape. 2 constables got him. Then another constable came out from the very same street, and I heard him talking of a horrible murder.
Shots.
Mrs. Powell, did you hear the gunshots?
I'm not sure. You know, what with the fireworks?
So circumstantial so far. Anyone else?
Did you see anyone else leaving Half Moon Street prior to or at the time of the crime?
No, sir, I did not. Even with all the fireworks, I was very attentive, as I'm always on the lookout for customers.
My thanks to you, Mrs. Powell.
She says that, but I feel like everybody would be distracted with the fireworks. Alright, let's talk to this dude.
Good evening, Mr. Turner.
I heard Constable Varro reply to you as Mr. Holmes. Are you that detective gentleman?
Yes.
I've heard of you. And well, I know things about this evening.
Excellent. Might we hear your story?
Also, he's gonna have an important part to play. So, war veteran. Okay. Come on. Trying to. I think that last one says poor life. Wait. Yeah.
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
I was already in bed when the fireworks started. A few moments after, I clearly heard 2 gunshots from outside.
Please continue.
I quickly got up and I grabbed the lamp from my nightstand and I rushed towards the window. I looked down and I saw 2 bodies. And there was a man with a gun who was standing nearby.
Where exactly?
Well, near this body.
Did he notice you?
I don't think so. He rushed towards Whitechapel Street without looking around.
Anyone else?
Mr. Turner, did you see anyone else in the street?
No, I saw no one but that man, the murderer, the fellow they caught.
And you were 2 two distinctive shots.
Were the two shots you heard consecutive?
Yes, there was a very short pause between them, and they sounded different somehow. It seemed to me that the second shot was louder than the first.
That is an interesting comment.
After the escape...
Mr. Turner, what were your actions after you stepped up to the window?
I was afraid that the man with a gun might return, so I stayed close to the window till I saw the policeman coming in the half-moon from Whitechapel. Then I walked out to tell them everything I saw.
You have helped us a great deal, Mr. Turner.
Oh my god, you are such a horrible liar, Jesus Christ. He didn't hear anything. She didn't hear anything. Why the hell would you hear anything? Plus, the police guy said that there was no light on. And there was... the... whatever. You're a horrible liar. Alright, let's go talk to... let's go talk to the brother. Let's see, we'll take a look at... so, leg, a piece of wood, and a key, which is probably going to be to the guy's store. So we also got... oh, we kept the plant that murdered the dude. Okay, so what do we got here? Ryan Turner. Ryan Turner is around 60 years of age. He's a veteran of the Korean War, a fact of which he is very proud. His leg was most likely injured during his war. He's been living since then. Mr. Turner lives a poor life. Alright.
Mr. Holmes, whatever brings you here so late at night?
I'm interested in the case of young Leighton Chapman. He was arrested earlier this evening and accused of a double murder.
I beg your pardon? That case is quite clear to the police. Or are there any new facts that we don't know about?
Who knows, Inspector?
Look, you are free to investigate, of course, Mr. Holmes. Chapman was arrested with a revolver in his possession, which you can find in the evidence room. The suspect himself is in custody.
Did you find anything else on his person?
A few personal belongings. Nothing particular, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Lestrade.
So, why would he just kill those two guys? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's... oh, that's the morgue. I don't want to go in. Alright, let's take a look and see what he had on him.
So this is the gun that Leighton was holding when he was caught by the police. It is a Webley revolver, a reliable weapon. It seems as though the shells were not removed from the cylinder. Two out of the 6 shells have been fired. There were 2 shots. A cheap watch, bought with his own money, no doubt. These cigarettes are filled with cheap tobacco. Nothing interesting. Please escort this suspect for interrogation.
God, he sounds so like...
Good evening, Mr. Chapman.
Who are you? I've got nothing to say. It's all a mistake.
Man, they did...
Calm down, Leighton. I have come here to help you. To find out if you truly are innocent, as your younger brother Wiggins has told me.
My brother? Mr. Holmes, I'll tell you everything.
Alright. Up on the street. Man, they got him What the hell are you? Oh. Why'd your brother live on the street? Anyways, that's beside the point. Okay, your story.
Good. Tell me your account of what happened.
I left my work and I hurried up to see the fireworks in Whitechapel. I was late, so I decided to cut through Half Moon Street. I saw the first fireworks light up in the sky. I bumped into a constable on a corner before entering Half Moon. Then suddenly, what with all the firework flare, I saw two men. They were both lying flat in the middle of the street. I stopped where I was. I thought about turning back to the police, but as I was thinking of that, I saw a third person. He was leaning over the body that was furthest from me. The second I saw him, he raised his head and he stared at me. In a flash, I saw his gun, but he made a dash for it instead and he escaped through Whitechapel Street.
Alright. I gotta wake up my husband really quick so he can go to work. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Time to return.
So you might still have had time to return to the constable.
I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I approached the bodies just to see if they were still alive. I saw that one had blood pumping out of his stomach. He was dying. It was horrible. The second one was already dead. He had a hole in his head. He was holding a gun in his hand, though. I took it, and then I followed the third man.
Pray continue.
Interesting. Pray continue.
I turned a corner, and I saw the man standing in the middle of the street. He seemed to be in some sort of panic. And then, Mr. Holmes, something strange happened. I told the police and they laughed at what I said, but I swear to you, my words are true. I started running towards him. But then I was blinded by a flash. It was so bright that I hardly saw anything for a good dozen seconds. But I kept running forward. As I arrived in Whitechapel, I heard a woman screaming. And then I was caught by the police. But there wasn't a trace of that man. Of course, then they found a gun and all that blood. I couldn't see the murderer escaping and all that mess. Perhaps I was still half-blinded at that moment.
A thrilling account, my young man.
The third man.
Leighton, are you able to describe the person whom you saw standing in Half Moon Street?
Well, I wasn't able to see his face at all. It was too dark, and he was too far away. I could see his silhouette.
And what about that?
Nothing so special. He was wearing a jacket. He was quite average in size and his weight.
I see. Was there anything else that struck you at the time?
No. But perhaps it's strange, but I can't remember the sound of his footsteps as he was running away. Perhaps it was because of the fireworks or the surprise of me seeing him.
Why follow him?
Leighton, I confess I am puzzled. Why should a young lad like you take a gun from the hands of a dead man and set off in pursuit of a probable killer?
I know. I keep wondering that, but at the time it was like a reflex. A criminal ought to be arrested, and he was armed.
You were willing to risk your life. That was a little foolish, unless you wanted revenge.
No, Mr. Holmes. I was just being brave and stupid.
Westgate prisoners. Yeah, he knew the other guy. The Vercotti guy?
I'm sure that you were, but I believe that you may have recognized one of the victims, Brian Vercotti. You knew that gentleman well, did you not?
However could you know that?
You have a typical tattoo of the Westgate Brotherhood upon your hand. I observed exactly the same mark upon Mr. Vercotti. You came to know him from your sharing a past prison sentence. Am I correct, Mr. Chapman?
Oh, God. You're right, Mr. Holmes.
Brian Vercotti, how well do you?
Would you tell me a little about Brian Vercotti?
We were convicted for a robbery. Once in prison, both of us joined one of these fraternities. During that year, we tried to help each other out, you know?
You were quite young then,
We were. We'd only stolen a pound of meat. After we were released, and when I saw what my little brother had become, I decided to work towards living an honest life.
And Vercotti?
He had a hard time. His sister had died in a Whitechapel dispensary while he was in prison. He had no family anymore. Our paths split. He fell back into crime.
So you lost him?
Yes. And for around 2 years, I heard no news of him at all.
We shall see you soon, young man.
Okay, so... Leighton Chapman. Leighton Chapman is in his 20s and is Wigan's older brother. Growing up on the streets, being a hot-headed lad, he committed a crime for... which he served time in Westgate Prison. He is currently detached from his past street life and is probably working somewhere as an office clerk. Okay. Let's see here. Stay connected. Alright, let's go back to Baker Street really quick. And let's see what we got here. Okay, what do we got? We got common statement. Leighton Chapman is the only person who was seen entering Half Moon Street after Brian Vercotti and Kenneth Butler. He was seen standing over the dead bodies and escaped the crime scene shortly afterwards. Leighton's statements. Leighton Chapman stated that he saw a person leaning over a dead body just as he entered the scene. Leighton took a gun from the body and set off in pursuit of the man, but he was blinded by a flash of bright light. Two victims, Brian Vercotti and Kenneth Butler, were both found shot in the dark at narrow Half Moon Street, which is located between Great Alley and Whitechapel High Street. Turner's view. Mr. Turner stated that he remained near his window until Leighton was caught by police who came from the direction of Whitechapel High Street. So about... No. Wait. Dark window. Constable Merrill paid attention to Mr. Turner's window while he was running past the dead bodies. He did not observe anyone next to the window. It was dark there. Yeah, I think... Conflicting statements. Mr. Turner stated that he remained at the window was flat until the police arrived. However, this is a conflict with Merrill's statement, as the constable did not see anyone at the window. Okay. Alright, we've got... the old acquaintance. Brian Vercotti is an old acquaintance of Leighton Chapman. They both imprisoned for robbery while still young men, but their paths diverged after their release. Leighton Chapman had nothing of any value in his possession when he was caught by the police directly after the crime. Here we go. What's this? Personal motive. The violent crime committed at Half Moon Street by Leighton Chapman could have had a personal motive. Okay. Mr. Turner heard two different consecutive shots. The second shot was louder than the first. Leighton was holding a revolver with two fired cartridges when he was caught after the crime at Half Moon Street. Turner could hear the contrast evidence as in fact 3 shots were made. First, a single shot was fired, and then 2 guns fired simultaneously, directly afterwards. Working at crossfire, okay. The game kind of gave that one away. So what's this? Imaginary man. The person in Lane Chapman describes his statements as a figment of his own imagination and created to vindicate himself. We'll play around with it. Really want to check this out. Dear Mr. Holmes, I am ready to express my appreciation for your striking at the truth of this horrible case. First, I could not even imagine how Miss Margaret White, such an exceptional and beautiful woman, could plan and commit such a dreadful murder with that fellow Hamish. How angry I was. When I attempted to put myself in her shoes, I began to understand. As talented and beautiful lady as Miss White was, she evidently could not complete her studies without money, while my father was living his high life, deficient in human sympathy. Thank you for your kindness towards her. She is no longer here. I miss her. Yours sincerely, Albert Dunn. Lock the door and all that. Oh no, I don't want to check out the fat lady. Let's pet Toby.
Hello, Toby. All you need now is a shawl and a mop cap, and you could be Mrs. Hudson's younger sister.
Huh. Okay. Come on.
A map of London and the surrounding area. It could be useful.
Okay, oh, that's weird. We've had a little hiccup in recording, but I guess we're still good. Oh, come on. Half Moon Street, let's go. Okay. Let's go down here.
What's up with you, lad? What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for my brother to be released.
Your brother?
The one that you caught, beat up and imprisoned.
Ah, the murderer.
He ain't killed no one, copper.
Watch your mouth, lad, else you'll be joining that worthless brother of yours.
Oh, don't. Hey. Let's put Wiggins in.
I'll do anything to save my brother, Mr. Holmes.
Okay, so imagination. 'Cause, 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 'c
A fairly long pole with a forked end. A fairly long pole with a forked end. I am unable to see any higher. I need to find something to lift my lamp.
Oh, you mean this?
This should be useful.
Okay.
This is most definitely a bullet hole. The brick cracks are fresh. Watson, there was a third shot fired in this street.
Disappearing mainly in Chabot statement regarding the black jacket advantage disappeared at Half Moon Street now seems reasonable, as the 3 shots at the crime scene prove the presence of a second gun that is now missing. Okay. Hey, I got a bone to pick with you, buddy. Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner, you have stated that you remained close by your window after the crime. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. I stayed at my window until the policeman arrived to examine the dead bodies.
That is very interesting, Mr. Turner. Constable Marrow stated that he did not see anyone at the window when he was running through Half Moon Street.
Well, I think Constable Marrow and me, we might have been distracted by the whistles and shouts coming from Whitechapel.
Yeah, I don't
We could have
think
missed each other somehow. You understand what I mean? It was a bit of a stressful moment, to tell you the truth, sir.
Allow me to form my own